السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. في هذا اللقاء المباشر من برنامج سؤال للمختص أو الإكسبرت. فبطبيعة الحال هذا البرنامج الذي يحل مكان Ask the Counselor أو سؤال للمستشار، اليوم خصصناه غيرنا الاسم من Ask the Counselor يعني المستشار إلى Ask the Expert الخبير. فالسؤال هنا دائما سيكون لخبير أو ضيف حلقة سيرافقنا في تقديم هذا البرنامج. الحلقة اليوم ستكون على Educational and Return Planning، بمعنى وسنركز خصوصا على Education، بمعنى برامج التي تقوم بها البنوك والتي تساعد الأشخاص على تنمية أموالهم لدراسة أو الأبناء، وكذلك لو هم يريدون كذلك تقاعد تكميلي في المستقبل. سيرافقني في هذه الحلقة مشكورا الأستاذ كيرولوس هانا، وهو مستشار في بنك CIBC في الاستثمارات ومختص، وسيقدم لنا كل ما هو يخص planning of education or retirement planning إن شاء الله. سيتكلم هو بالإنجليزي وبطبيعة الحال سنرد عليه، سنقوم بالترجمة بالعربية. وإذا ما توفر لكم أي سؤال فأنتم مرحبا بكم لطرح أسئلتكم على الأستاذ كيرولوس حنا إن شاء الله، وسيجيب عليها، وسنحاول كذلك الإجابة على أكبر قدر من الأسئلة خلال هذه الحلقة. أخ كيرولوس تفضل مشكورا.
Thank you, Mustafa. Thank you for having me back. Today, as you were saying, we're going to be talking about saving for our children's education, what we call a registered education savings plan. So that we're going to talk about the benefits of it. We're going to talk a little bit about the costs of university and college down the road in the years to come. And we'll also talk about some government incentives that can help us also save for our children's education. So I'm just going to present my screen here. Can you see that, Mustafa?
See, so I'm going to just translate what you said before we go ahead.
Sure.
So الأخ كيرولوس تكلم بعجالة عن البرامج التي سنتكلم عليها اليوم، وهي السيفين، يعني جمع الأموال لمصاريف الدراسة للأطفال خصوصا، وسنركز على هذا، وكذلك سنتكلم على مصاريف الجامعات والأكاديميات والمؤسسات في كندا، وكذلك مساعدات الدولة التي تقوم بها لمساعدة الآباء والأبناء إن شاء الله على جمع المصاري للمستقبل. تفضل أستاذ.
Perfect. So we want to talk a little bit about considerations for new parents. So some questions we're going to ask ourselves are, what will my child's education cost? How much can I afford? And how do I balance education savings with my other goals? So obviously it's not all my savings is going to be towards my child's education. I need to also have an emergency savings plan, so emergency funds. I also need to have my retirement savings plan, and then just a regular savings plan for anything that may come up in the future. The high cost of higher education. What this means is how much university and college will actually cost our children in the years to come. So a 4-year undergraduate degree, if there is residency, so if they're actually staying at the university campus, is estimated to cost over $100,000 in 2026. So you can see over here in 2026, the cost will be roughly just over $100,000. And as you see, year over year, the price increases. So for example, if we look at 2030, we're looking at over $110,000, closer to $115,000. The reason costs are going up is obviously there's inflation that we calculate in this graph here. Did you want to explain that, Mustafa?
Do you mean to do translation right now?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So first of all, أول شيء أكد عليه الأستاذ كيرلس هو أنه بما أن العائلة تريد أن تقوم بدفع مصاريف الأبناء، هناك بعض الأسئلة التي يجب على العائلة طرحها. أولا، كم سيكلفني مبلغ دراسة الأولاد؟ ثانيا، هل أنا باستطاعتي تحمل هذه المصاريف؟ ثالثا، هل هناك كيف لي أنا كشخص لدي أطفال مقبلين على الجامعة وعلى الكوليج أن أقوم بالتوافق ما بين ما هو لدي في التخزين يعني السيفين وما هو متوفر في البرامج. أوكي، الآن الأستاذ كيرولوس كذلك تكلم هنا على مصاريف الدراسة. مصاريف الدراسة مع الأسف الشديد كما ترون في المخطط الذي أمامنا تقوم بالارتفاع، أخذا بعين الاعتبار طبيعة الحال التضخم، نسبة التضخم المالي، وكذلك المصاريف التي تأخذها الدراسة خلال في 2026. فالمفروض أن كل شخص سيكلف خلال 4 سنوات دراسة ما قدره $100,000 أو أكثر. تفضل.
Thank you. So how to budget to your benefit. So there are some tips that we're going to go through today. First thing would be to review your inflows and outflows to understand where you can adjust. So what that means is we want to review what money is coming in. So for example, my payroll, any investment income, maybe I have a rental property income, and then we also want to review your outflow. So expenses, maybe mortgage, maybe rent, car, miscellaneous, so like going out, shopping, food, clothing. We need to analyze that and figure out how much is coming in and how much is going out. We also need to see if you can redeploy funds to help balance your savings goals. So is it possible to reallocate funds from different from different investments or different savings or different accounts to actually achieve your goals, and start a regular investment plan. So when we say starting a regular investment plan, what we're really looking at doing is having a certain amount of money coming out of your account on a certain frequency. So for example, if I get paid every 2 weeks, then I will have $100 of my paycheck come out every 2 weeks. Or if I get paid monthly, we can do a monthly contribution of $100 or $200, whatever we're able to find that we're able to afford. So for example, here, if we look at this graph, this chart on the right, this is with an initial 2,500 investment. Saving in regular monthly increments can grow to thousands over time. So the gray line here is if we do $100 a month over 18 years. So if my child right now is just born and I start doing $100 a month over 18 years, I will have $41,000 saved up for their education. The red line is showing if I do $150 a month, which is roughly $58,000. And the purple line at the end, or the burgundy line, $200 a month will get me close to $76,000 at the end of, at the time our children will actually need the money for university. Now, this chart will actually show us an annualized return of 5% a year. So this is not just money sitting in an account. This is actually money in an investment that's generating 5% a year, and it's also including the government incentive that will actually go over closer towards the middle of the presentation, and we'll talk about that in more detail. So 3 tips to help you get started. First is always start early. Saving early can help you benefit from compound growth, which will make your money grow faster. So that what this means is when I start saving earlier, my savings will get me more savings. So for example, I start off with $1,000. That $1,000 next year grows to $1,100. The year after, it's the growth of $1,100, not just the growth of $1,000. So compound interest. Also, creating a budget, analyzing your cash inflows and outflows can help you identify saving opportunities. So, as we discussed earlier, figuring out how much we can actually afford by analyzing how much money is coming in every month, how much money is going out, and based on that, we can see how much we can afford to actually start saving for our kids' education. And then pay yourself first. So we say pay yourself first when we talk about our regular investment plans, because before I pay anything, before I pay any of my bills, before I go out shopping or indulge in something that that I like doing, what I do is I pay myself first. I save for the future. So whatever it is that we decide that we can afford based on your budget, we take that out every bi-weekly or monthly, whatever we decide on doing. So saving for your child's education. Again, questions we want to ask are, what are my options to save for my child's education? What is the best saving strategy to use? And how do I catch up on my savings goals if I'm behind? So funding your child's education, there's three things that we can look at doing. The number one thing we want to look at doing is called a Registered Education Savings Plan, or we call RESP. This is an account actually made for this purpose. It's made for saving money for our children's education for the future. There is a maximum contribution amount of $2,500 that the government will match 20% of every year. So you would get $500 every year from the government if you were to contribute $500. $2,500 in this account. We also have tax-free account savings. So if we maximize our RESP contributions, we want to look at saving in a tax-free savings account, because any money grown and growth in that account is completely tax-free. And then we have non-registered accounts. This is the last account we actually would like to maximize, because it's not sheltered from tax, and there's very little benefit compared to the top two, the RESP and the tax-free savings. So what is an RESP? RESPs are most often chosen because they're eligible for incentives from the Canadian government. Some of the key benefits is tax savings. So your investment is tax deferred. It's not tax free, but it's tax deferred, meaning any growth in the account, you're not going to get charged tax on until your child withdraws this money for education purposes. And when they withdraw it for education purposes, the money is actually taxed in the child's hands. So your child actually pays taxes on it, which is actually better, because your children, being students, are not going to have high income, so they'll actually be paying little or no tax. And then we have the government contribution that we discussed, which is the federal and some provincial governments provide grants and incentives to help savings grow faster, which is so for example 20% of my contribution the government will match up to a maximum of 2,500. So every $2,500 I put in this account, the government will give me $500 a year. Education flexibility. So RESP savings can be used towards a variety of post-secondary educational paths and costs. And then also we have the last thing, which is the investment choice. We can choose so many different types of investment options when it comes to RESP. So we can look at mutual funds, we can look at GICs, so we can look at cash accounts. So it really depends on your suitability, or your I guess your like your willingness to invest in different types of investments. So we have two different types of RESPs. There's a single plan. So single is for one child named as the beneficiary, and anyone can be the subscriber. Subscribers are usually the parents, in my experience. Sometimes the grandparents, or maybe an aunt or an uncle, but usually the parents. So it's the person who's opening up the RESP for the child. And for a single plan, it's only one child name. So if you have one child, you can open up this account. If you are planning on having more children in the future, or you're just not sure if you're going to or not, or if you have more than one child, you open up a family plan. Family plan is for 2 or more children. Family plans can be opened for one child initially, and then you can add children later down the road when if you have more children down the road. If one child doesn't pursue post-secondary education, the funds can generally be used for the remaining children. So if my oldest child does not go to university or college, I can use that money actually for the child, for the other child in the account. And all beneficiaries must be related by blood or adoption to the subscriber. So if you are a beneficiary, that means you are either a blood related, so you're the son or daughter, or you are adopted by the account person that opened up the account, the subscriber. So talk a little bit about the grants again, the government grants. It's called the Canada Education Savings Grant. The government of Canada may match RESP contributions by up to 20% annually. So again, if your RESP contributions are $2,500 a year, you could receive what we call a CESG of $500. Now there is a lifetime limit. So the lifetime limit is $7,200 for the government grant, which is why I discussed earlier. We look at alternatives once we maximize our RESP grant. We can look at tax-free savings accounts because, again, if our children don't go to university, at least that money is tax-free and it's open, so I can take it anytime. Provincial grants I'm not going to go over because that's Quebec and British Columbia. And then we also have a Canada Learning Bond. This is generally available when your child is 15 or younger, and you qualify for Canada Child Benefits. The initial CLB in first year is $500, and any year subsequent is $100 annual installments. Lifetime maximum is $2,000 per child. Now, what are some ways that we can save for our children's education in our RESPs? So we can look at contribute to an RESP early to maximize compound growth while still receiving our Canada Education Savings Grant. So if we take a look at the first option here with the total savings of close to $109,000, as you can see, most of the money is actually coming from growth of the investments, right? So we have $50,000 in contributions. We have $5,000 in Canada Education Savings Grant, and then the growth you're looking at $53,000. So this is just pretty much showing us our investment options. And then the second one would look at $37,000 growth, $7,200 in government grants, and $50,000 in contributions. You'd have a total of $94,000 there. And the last one, you're looking at contributions again at $50,000. You still get the maximum grants. However, your growth is only $22,000. Now, the difference here, as you can see difference you can see here in totals is because of the type of investment that you would contribute your money to. So am I investing in something a bit more aggressive because I have a longer time period? Or am I investing in something very safe but gives me a very low return because I have a very short time frame before I need the money? The next thing we're talking about is grow your child's education savings by revisiting your investment strategy over time. So we're not going to pick one investment strategy and then just go with it throughout the whole life of the investment. What we want to do is have meetings at least annually, if not every 6 months, to review our goals, make sure everything is up to date. Things change in the market. So what we want to do is just be able to align the investment with your goals and your priorities. So if you look at the age 0 to 8, which is long term, you have lots of time to make back potential losses. So if my child is between the ages of 0 to 8, I have a very long time before they need the money. So consider choosing a higher return mix of investments. but that also means higher volatility or higher risk in line with your personal risk profile. And then if I look at if my child is the age between 8 to 13, this is considered medium term because my child is going to need it when they're 18. So I'm looking at between what is that? Probably 7 to 10 years, I would say. So you have some time to make back losses, but it depends on how much you need to make back. So consider choosing maybe a balanced mix. So I'm not going to go too aggressive on the investments. I'll go maybe in the balance, somewhere in between, but also generating me a decent return and helping me grow my money. And then between the ages of 13 to 18, this is we consider short term. So if your child is between that age bracket, consider maybe going towards a safer investment. Yes, your money is not going to grow as fast or as much, or potentially as fast or as much as a long-term investment option, but at least you have that safety because again, you need to use that money in a very short time period. So tips for catching up on your savings goals. The first thing would be monitor your budget. So again, seeing how much is going in, how much is going out. If things change, do we have the opportunity to increase those investment contributions, right? And if things are not going your way, and you need to decrease that amount, you can always do that as well. You can always look at decreasing. Um, so that's one option. Also, make small changes to the way you spend. So, for example, like if you eat out every day, maybe like let's look at taking lunch to work 3 times a week instead of eating at work every day of the week, for example, and that'll add up at the end of the month. Revisit your overall asset allocation. So taking a look at what type of investment I'm actually in, and again, making sure that it's the right investment for me. And the last thing would be leverage special occasions as savings opportunities. So, for example, if it's your child's birthday, maybe look at buying them like a certain type of investment as opposed to buying them a gift. Yes, we obviously want to treat our children, but sometimes it just makes sense to teach them the value of money as well. And then, which brings me actually to this slide, which is tips for raising a financially literate child. So this is very important because, as I was just saying, we really want to teach our children the value of money. And how do we do that? We actually do that by starting early. Set them up with a checking and savings account to help them track their spending and savings. So instead of giving them their allowance cash, open up an account for them. You can open up an account for them like as soon as they're born, as long as you're on the account as well. And put their allowance through that. Have them spend their money through that, and then at the end of the month you can review their statement with them, show them how much money they spent at certain places and how they can save money. Help them create and stick to a budget. So even if you're giving them, for example, $50 a month to spend as an allowance, tell them you can only spend $30 a month. This is your budget, and the rest of the $20 we have to save. So how are you going to spend the $30? And then just doing that practice with them will actually teach them the value of money. Talk to them about the responsible use of credit. So if your child is at the age where they have a credit card, or maybe just a few years before, we can talk to them about how to use a credit card responsibly, and what credit cards are actually used for. And then consider showing them the growth of their education fund over time and involve them in the savings process. So when you go to open up the education savings plan, bring them with you. Have them ask questions or let them understand what you're actually doing for them, how much you're contributing, and what the expected growth of this portfolio is. Over time, so every time you check it or every time you meet with your advisor, bring them with you again, have them see the growth in that portfolio. This will really build those values and that understanding of money is not just something that grows on trees, like we always say, but money actually has a value. So these are just some additional resources that you can visit to learn more about the RESP and saving for your child's education. And the last thing to do is to take the next step. So just be aware. Don't underestimate the rising cost of education. As we said earlier, it's going to be over $100,000 for a 4-year program. I think it was 2026, so not far away. Starting early, again, we talked about that, which is very important because we get compounded growth, and it's easier for us to save over a longer period of time. If we wait and it's too late, then we're going to have to do a bit more of an aggressive savings plan. And looking at topping it up, so increase your savings when other childcare costs go down. So if my kids no longer go to daycare, for example, and I don't have to pay for that anymore, maybe look at reallocating that money from daycare to the kids' education savings plan. Preset it, so an automatic savings plan makes your contributions easier, and your money has the potentials to start growing immediately. So instead of doing it yourself every couple of months going to the bank, no, have it set up automatically that every month $200 is going into my education savings plan, and this becomes a habit. So it becomes easier for me to accept it and have the money grow at a faster rate. And then check in. Regularly reviewing your plan can help you stay on track. So meeting with my financial advisor, talking again with my children about how this money has grown and what it's going to be used for. This will help us keep on track, and it'll help us stay motivated to achieve our goal. So take the next step towards a brighter tomorrow for your family. Book a meeting with an advisor and talk about saving for your child's education. Thank you.
Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go through like what Kirolos said in Arabic. بطبيعة الحال الأخ كيرولوس تكلم على أشياء كثيرة خلال الفترة التي كان يقوم فيها بتقديم البرنامج تبع دراسة الأطفال، وكيف للعائلة المحافظة على الأموال لمساعدة الشباب في المستقبل على دخول الجامعات والكليات. سأختصر ما قاله في 3 أو 4 نقط محورية. النقطة المحورية الأولى هو أنه هناك برامج كثيرة تساعد أو تدعم الآباء لصرف مبلغ محدد من المال وتخزينه لمستقبل الأطفال. فهذه الأموال بطبيعة الحال خلال الفترة ما بين ولادة الطفل إلى غاية 18 سنة، اللي هي سنة حصوله أو دخوله للجامعة وحصوله على المبالغ المحددة، فهناك قدمت 3 سيناريوهات مختلفة. السيناريو الأول هو $100، $100. فخلال لو أنت قمت بتخزين $100 كل سنة من خلال برامج تقوم بها البنوك لدعم الآباء، فمثلا $100 ممكن في نهاية 18 سنة يمكنه تخزين ما قدره تقريبا $41,000. إذا كان تم تخزين $150 تقريبا المبلغ الذي سيحصل عليه خلال 18 سنة هو $75,000. إذا كان المبلغ $200 في نهاية 18 سنة ممكن تخزين ما قدره $94,000، وهي مبالغ كبيرة ستساعد الشباب أو الطلاب المستقبل على دفع مصاريف الكليات والجامعات. نقطة ثانية محورية تطرق لها الأخ كيرولوس، وهي الأدبيات أو أخلاقيات تعليم الشباب والأطفال منذ نعومة الأطفال على كيفية صرف المبالغ التي تصرف لهم خلال الشهر. مثلا لو كانت الأب أو الأم خلال نقول مثلا شهر معين يقدمون مثلا مبلغ مثلا 50 أو 60 أو $100 للشباب أو للأطفال لصرفه في محتاجاتهم، لا بد مثلا للآباء أن يقوموا بتثقيف الأولاد وتهيئهم للمستقبل بتعليم كيفية صرف هذه المبالغ، أوكي، وكذلك كيفية خزن الجزء منها للمستقبل. فمثلا خلال الشهر مثلا تقول له مثلا أنت مسموح لك مثلا أن أديتك $100 ولكن مسموح لك مثلا بصرف مثلا 50 أو 60 دولار. فمن خلال تصرفات الطفل سترى أنه مثلا قام ببعض الأعمال يمكن لك معالجتها وتربيتها. هنا تدخل التربية المالية للأطفال. نقطة ثالثة محورية كذلك تكلم عليها الأخ كيرولوس، وهو خطوات يعني كيف نقوم بإحنا كأشخاص أو كعائلات عربية مثلا للقيام بالاستفادة من هذه البرامج. أول شيء عليك هو تحديد، لأنه بالتقائك مع المستشار المستشار يركز على بعض النقاط لتحديد المبلغ الذي يجب عليك مثلا أو يمكنك القيام به بشكل مستمر لفترة معينة طويلة. فمثلا بيأخذون بعين الاعتبار الدخل تبعك والمصاريف، بطبيعة الحال الاستثمارات التي قمت بها، البرامج تبعك، يعني الأهداف، ما هي أهدافك، كم ولد، فهمتي كيف؟ وكذلك نحدث على نوعين من البرامج. هناك برنامج تبع أطفال شخص معين، شخص واحد، وهناك برنامج عائلي الذي يكون فيه أكثر من شخص أو شخصين. وبطبيعة الحال لو أي شخص من هذه الأشخاص لم يستفيد من الأموال، فالثاني يمكن هو الاستفادة من المبلغ المتبقي. أوكي، كذلك أتكلم على خطوات للاستفادة من هذه البرامج. أول شيء هو تحديد الأهداف. ثانيا الالتقاء مع مستشار بنكي مختص في ميدان الاستثمارات وبرامج تخزين الأموال للشباب للدراسة. بطبيعة الحال كذلك سيأخذ بعين الاعتبار الدخل، سيأخذ بعين الاعتبار المصاريف، سيعودك كذلك ويشجعك كذلك على مثلا أن تستقر على مبلغ معين خلال مثلا فترة، مثلا نقول في الشهر مثلا $100 أو خلال أسبوعين $50. فأنت ستحاول خلال المصاريف تبعك أن يعني تكون الأولوية لتخزين المصاري لدراسة الأولاد. بطبيعة الحال لو في أي سؤال فيما يخص هذا الميدان يرحب به كذلك نقدمه للأخ كيرولوس قبل نهاية الحلقة. Kirolos, so what I did right now, I did like a small briefing what you said. So one question come up always, like for example, me as a parent, so I put like, I am putting $100 each month to help on education of one of my kids. Okay, let's say for example, he was like 13, for example, or 15. So at the age of 18, how he gonna start getting his money?
So what happens at this time is either the parents or the children would come in together, and they would show us an enrollment form. So a letter from the university or college saying that this child has started, or they can also, I believe, present like a transcript or maybe like proof that they paid the fees, and then we'll be able to withdraw a certain portion of that. Every year there is certain portions that you're able to withdraw. So yeah, it just depends on first year, second year, third year, but usually the first year actually has a limit of withdrawal.
Yeah, so like for example, if I am a parent and I did save like for example $25,000 for my kid, right now he's in university, and I open an account for him. So that's like how much he's gonna get the first year, for example, and it's gonna be like automatic. For example, I know that these bonds, does the bank gonna sell these bonds and put it in his account? Yeah, so because all these techniques, people don't know about it, so they want to know.
Exactly. So what would happen is if you're buying bonds and mutual funds, usually the mutual fund will have some bonds in it, but it's completely liquid. So whenever you need the money, it just takes 1 day for us to transfer the money from the RESP into your checking account.
Okay, that's good. So another question, like for example, I'm a parent right now. I am saving my money for my kids, so they are going to the college right now, and they are getting the money. So can they ask for a loan beside that? For example, they can ask for OSAP beside like the money they saved.
So it depends. So OSAP is a tricky question because that depends on your income, and also the RESP will affect it a little bit. So that I would ask you to take up with OSAP, but it's a bit tricky because again, it depends on your family income for your qualification on OSAP, and then how much you have in your RESP as well.
Okay, so another question, very important that I got like from a couple of clients. For example, I am, let's say, I got a child, I start saving and all this stuff. Like at the end of the road, for example, I did like after 5-10 years, so I was in need of that money.
Yep.
Can I get it back? And
Absolutely.
how? Yeah, what is the consequence?
So it happens often. We see it from time to time. And what happens is we call this a non-educational withdrawal or purpose withdrawal. So I'm taking the money from the account, not because I need it for education, but for any other purpose. Okay, so you can do this, but what will happen is the government will take back their portion of the grant, and you will be taxed on the money. Okay, so usually what happens is when the child goes to university, as we were saying, the child will get taxed on the RESP, right? The RESP withdrawal will be taxed in the child's hands, which is better because the child generally makes no income, right?
Of course.
So that's much better for you. But if you are withdrawing money before that, then the money will be taxed in your hands.
أنا سألت كيروغلوس 3 أسئلة. السؤال الأول كان فيما يخص مثلا أنا كأب لدي مصاري وتركتهم في البنك، وعندما كمل الولد 18 أو البنت 18 سنة الآن سأقوم بسحب هذه المصاري. فهو شرح لنا الطريقة التي يقوم بها، فهي طريقة سلسة جدا. البنك يقوم بطبيعة الحال حتى ولو هي عن طريق ما يسمى بالبورصة، في البورصة بالبونز أو الأكشن، يعني هي غير عملة، بس هي بيقول لك هو بأنه المصاري هي مادية، يعني البنك يبيع المستندات، وبطبيعة الحال أنت كشخص تستفيد من هذه المصاري، والبنت أو الابن يأخذ المصاري ويستفيدوا منها. أوكي، الطريقة تكون بطريقة سلسة، يتم فتح حساب ويتم تحويل مبلغ من الحساب الذي كانت مخزنة فيه المصاري إلى الحساب الجاري للتلميذ أو التلميذة مستقبلي. هناك سؤال كان ثاني طرحته على الأستاذ كيرولوس فيما يخص لو أنا كشخص خلال حياتي مثلا كنت بعمل $100 أو $200 كشخصين خلال المصاريف، ولكن في ظروف ما اضطريت إلى سحب هذه المصاري. يقول يمكن بطبيعة الحال لأي شخص يقوم بالقيام، ولكن هناك مع الأسف الشديد بعض الأشياء التي يجب على الشخص يعرفها، وبأنه أول شيء ستقوم الحكومة بسحب المبلغ الذي أو المساعدة التي قامت بها أو الجرانت التي تتهلك خلال الفترة، وسيقوم كذلك ستقوم كذلك كأب أو كأم بدفع الضرائب على المبالغ التي سحبت. Okay, so there is a last question, so I want you to go through it, please. Couple of parents, they are asking about if I do, for example, I have 4 kids, but I don't want them. I don't want to put the money in a risk. For example, I want to just put it in a saving account, and I will keep it there till there. Can I do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the RESP account, it doesn't have to be a mutual fund, which is tied to the market. It doesn't have to be bonds. It doesn't have to be GIC. It can just be cash, right? Okay. So you can just have it in cash. Or, I mean, GICs are better than cash because they'll get you a little bit more interest. GICs are guaranteed instrument certificates, so you're not going to be risking any of your money. It's 100% safe. But at least it's in that RESP account, so it's making you, it's getting you the government grant as well. The main thing to understand as well is that you don't have to have a large amount of money to deposit at one time. Most people, and I'd say most, I would say around 90-95% of the clients that come to us for RESPs, they're doing regular investment plans. So instead of doing $2,500 a year, because that's a lot, right? What people are doing is $50 a week or $100 every 2 weeks, or right. So whatever you're comfortable with, whatever you can afford, but do it on a weekly or bi-weekly or monthly basis, so that you feel it less, right?
Yep, that's true. So yeah, أنا طرحت سؤال على كيرولوس بما يخص هل لأنه عادة في البنوك يقوموا بما يسمى بالميتوال فاندز. الميتوال فاندز يعني هذه استثمارات، يعني مصاريف فيها نسبة من أنك ممكن تخسر هذه المصاري. فسألته هل ممكن للشخص فتح حساب بس للسيفين، يعني يحط المصاري تبعه في هذا الحساب. بطبيعة الحال يقول الجو يقول نعم، وهو اختيار بطبيعة الحال. وهنا في هذه الحالة فمصاريف بتكون يعني سليمة ومضمونة، أوكي، وليس لها علاقة بطلوع أو سوق أو نزول السوق المالي، بغض النظر عن الميتوال فاند اللي مع الأسف الشديد لأنها استثمارات وهي معرضة لتضخمات السوق. Okay, so there is one last question. So right now, for example, I am saving the money and I am paying. So, like for example, the question is like, does the money go to the university directly, or it's gonna be deposited in the student's account first, and it will depend it.
So yes, so it's deposited into the subscriber's account. So it'll be so it'll be deposited into your account, and then you're responsible for paying. Because usually what will happen is that people will come to us after they've already paid, right? For the first year. I mean, it could happen where someone comes before, but usually in my experience, I've seen people coming after with bills and just proof that my child already started education, right? Yeah.
السؤال كان هنا من هل المصاري التي يتم سحبها تدفع مباشرة للجامعات والكليات أو تدفع لحساب الطالب؟ فالجواب كان واضح، لا تدفع للكليات ولا للطالب، تدفع للآباء الذين يقومون بطبيعة الحال بتصريف هذه الأموال. I suppose we are coming to the end of this session today. Thank you very much, Kirolos.
Thank you.
Yeah, for being a part of this 3 sessions, very informative sessions. Very like I really got a good feedback from like clients about it. So and hopefully we're gonna see you like inshallah in other sessions inshallah. اوكي، نشكر الاخ كيرولوس كثيرا على حضوره ل3 حلقات متتابعه للقيام بشرح مجموعه من الاعمال المصاريف البنكيه. كذلك وفي طريقنا الى النهايه نشكر مخرجنا الجميل داني وكل الاخوان الذين يشتغلون في الكواليس لانجاح هذه الحلقات من Ask the Counselor او سؤال الخبير. والى ان القاكم في الحلقه القادمه ان شاء الله، لكم مني احرى المتمنيات، والسلام عليكم ورحمه الله تعالى وبركاته.